Welcome to the Sweetness of Trial podcast and commentary. My name is Chuck Malone, and I am the author of the book, The Sweetness of Trial, a perspective to help you win, not just endure. Available in both paperback and Kindle on the Amazon book platform. Written by Charles P. Malone. Today's episode of The Sweetness of Trial, we are finally through the reviews, dedication, contents page, preface, and the published article. And now we begin on Chapter 1, titled Reflections. You do remember, don't you, that I initially wrote this book for my family to read as my testimony of trial, spiced with personal stories and anecdotes as such, and somehow it got published, and it was shared with friends and neighbors. Well, this chapter titled Reflections covers pages 7 through 12 and introduces you to my infamous story of the lost spur, along with some other childhood recollections, all relating to the main topic of trial and opposition. I hope you enjoy this episode, and be sure to click follow so you are notified of future episodes. Remember, if you would like a paperback copy or Kindle format of the book, you can jump on the website to Amazon.com, go into the book section, and then just search The Sweetness of Trial by Charles P. Malone. And be sure to leave me a great review, would you? Appreciate it. So let's begin. Reflections. As a young boy, I loved visiting my Grandma Leopold. She wouldn't throw a thing away, including her back issues of Reader's Digest magazine. It was small in size, but it contained stories of bigger-than-life heroes who found themselves caught in the jaws of hell or in the clutches of a man-eating bear, only to miraculously survive to tell the story. Now, those were trials, and they all seemed to have a happy ending, even with the loss of limb or some other bodily function. But in our story, yours and mine, we are not certain of the outcome of our trial. Ours is unlikely to be published in Reader's Digest for all to read with wonder and amazement. Most likely we will endure our trial in quiet anonymity. Trial is unique to each one of us. I don't consider it a trial that I can't throw a baseball 98 miles an hour and hit the strike zone 75% of the time. But to Florida Seminole State College pitcher Jordan Underwood, losing an eye to a direct hit from a batter during a college game was a life-altering trial. Your first thought was, "Is he alive?" said Kai Burgess, Underwood's catcher that day. He was not moving. He didn't make a noise. All you heard was the sound of the ball hitting the bat, and the ball hitting his face, and the ball trickling off, as quoted in the Brownsville Herald in April 23rd, 2011. Jordan's trial could have been life-ending, let alone a promising career as a major leaguer. But Underwood's passion for baseball and his drive to compete again drove him past his trial and into victory lane. 2 years following the loss of his left eye, Jordan Underwood appeared on the mound as Southeast Missouri State University's ace pitcher, as well as one of the top left-handers in the Ohio Valley. For Jordan, the thought of losing his dream of playing baseball was greater than losing an eye. "I still have the urge to go back and give it a shot," Underwood said, "but I didn't think things would work out as well as they have for me." Jordan was offered a 2-year scholarship to Southeast Missouri State University by coach Mark Hogan only 2 months after Underwood's devastating injury. I was so impressed when I met him, Hogan said. I told him, Jordan, I don't know what's going to happen here, and you don't either, but I like you. Your desire to get back on the field is real, and I'd like to be a part of it. At the time, it was less about baseball and more about this guy's desire to pursue his dream. To go where it has gone is off the chart, says Hogan. Ace pitcher Jordan Underwood was presented with a life altering trial. Life happened, choices were made. Jordan could have chosen instrumental music instead of sports to pursue, and chances are Jordan would have still had his left eye. But he chose baseball and pitching. And life threw a curveball at Jordan Underwood that day, unexpectedly altering his choices in life. None of us go looking for trial. In fact, when trial finds us, we often consider it the enemy and look upon it with disdain, only wishing it to leave as quickly as it came. But what if trial was actually meant to be a blessing in our lives, sent to teach us, to prepare us for something far greater than what we could have achieved on our own? What if, in the eye of the trial, what if we could experience sweetness? A feeling unexplained in our time of need and challenge, but yet desirable. Not bitter as the world defines trial, as tasting from the bitter cup, but sweet and filling, yielding to hope and peace. How is such a feeling possible, you ask? When all I feel is emptiness and grief, almost a state of mourning over what was lost as a result of my trial. It is possible by first understanding some basic truths. Well, here's a story. I was raised in a small town in northern Arizona known for the gunfight at the Bucket of Blood Saloon. The town of Holbrook hosted the Navajo County Fair each year, and I, as a cowboy wannabe, tried desperately each year to win the barrel racing event without success. Of course, I was only 10. But yet, one year, my own horse was having health problems, and my cousin Buzzy Dobell came through by loaning me his prized barrel racing horse they affectionately called One Eye. Well, while practicing a few turns, I realized the horse was aptly named. He was indeed blind in one eye. Before the race began, I took the horse out into the neighboring field to become better acquainted. And after a few turns, using the native tumbleweeds as barrels, I decided I'd better head back to check in with the rodeo officials. That is when I realized I had a bigger problem than a one-eyed horse in a barrel racing contest. I had only one spur. Losing a spur would not have kept me from racing. But this particular spur was loaned to me by my brother-in-law, Pete Lewis, who had inherited the set from his Uncle Dodge, and he had warned, as he handed them over to me, they were one of his few earthly prized possessions. Well, you're probably wondering if I was going to use the one-eyed horse as an example of one who had the trial. Nope. It was the cowboy wannabe with only one spur, which was about to learn the biggest lesson of his life, and that is there is a God, and he cares about me. Once I realized I had somehow lost the spur, I mounted my horse and headed back to the field where I had been only a couple hours earlier and started a meticulous search for the spur. But after about 30 minutes of searching, I began to feel the weight of disappointment my brother in law would surely feel once I conveyed the terrible news of what I had carelessly done. While sitting on the horse, a thought came to me that I should pray. Well, as a young Methodist boy, I did believe in God. I regularly attended Sunday school, and when I wasn't entertaining the rest of the class, I was actually learning and feeling. I knew there was a God, and I prayed often, mostly about girls and important things like that, but this was different. I was in a real jam, and I had no way out. I frantically searched everywhere I thought I had been writing, but came up empty-handed. I could hear in the background race officials announcing for all the barrel racing contestants to check in prior to the starting time of the race, and I was beginning to panic. I needed help, and I needed it now. I bowed my head and prayed a very sincere prayer, short but sincere. I started looking again, and there was no spur to be found. But just as I was about to give up and resign myself to being on the receiving end of my family's wrath for being so irresponsible, a thought came to me that I should look in a field not far from where I was currently riding. But the tall grass and weeds made it almost impossible to see the ground, I argued with myself. Besides, I don't remember even riding over there. And yet again, that feeling came over me that I should focus my search in that area. Well, after a brief time of erratic searching without success, I was again prompted to pray. And as I ended my prayer, I can remember it as if it were yesterday. I opened my eyes with my head still bowed, and a spark of sun hit my eye from something hanging on a bush. I jumped off old One Eye to get a better look, and there in the small clearing, just inches between some grass and weeds, lay the missing spur. I could hardly believe my eyes. I jumped off the horse. I fell to my knees, and sure enough, it was the spur. I would live to ride another day. I was so excited I nearly forgot to tell my Heavenly Father, thank you. But I did tell him over and over again, with tears running down my cheeks. I realized then and there that all those stories told in Sunday school were true about how God knows us individually and cares for us and even cries for us at times. He loves us so much, he made this beautiful earth for us to come to and live upon and love and learn. And once in a while, he even peeks through the curtain of heaven and helps a young boy avoid disaster by pointing him right to where he lost his spur. As Paul Harvey would say, now for the rest of the story. No, I didn't pull off a miracle with the one-eyed horse to win the race. I didn't even place. But later, as I thought back on my feelings about finding the missing spur, a warm but piercing reflection came into my mind as I saw myself sitting on that horse, looking across the field where I had been led to find the spur. I gulped as I absorbed the realization that I had not even been in that field. How? How could my missing spur turn up almost a football field away from where I'd been riding? I guess I'll never know. But this much I do know. I am a child of a God who loves me. He shows it in ways not understood by logic or reason, but often through oft-silent whisperings which say, I am here. Walk beside me and see. If a loving Heavenly Father would take the time to help me recover something so small in worldly significance, and perhaps initiate the beginning of a lifelong tutorial on how to listen and react to promptings of the Spirit, I promise you that He is near and ready to help you through your trial, although I can't promise the return of your lost spur, as I could not fathom the return of mine. I can promise He will aid in your search for answers and will lead you, guide you, and help you find the way, maybe even become a source of strength to teach you all that you must do to be with Him someday. Thank you so much for enjoying this episode of The Sweetness of Trial. My friends, thank you so much for spending your time with me today in discussing the sweetness of trial. Please join me in future episodes as we learn how to not only endure trial, but to win from it, as we continue our journey through my book, The Sweetness of Trial.